Pleasant good evening, everyone. Welcome to our session for this week. We are now in week 11, and we have just a few objectives that we'd like to cover in tonight's session. We'll be going over the live session objectives, where we are in the course. We'll be discussing research phase 3 briefly, as well as phase 4. And next week, we plan to start writing the chapters in your paper if you haven't started it yet. We'll also be going over questions for practical project number 4 and offering any assistance. And of course, we have a case study presentation tonight. The objectives for these live sessions is to ensure that you understand what is due, when it's due, and ensure that you don't fall behind in your coursework. Practical project number 4 should be completed at the end of this week, that's Sunday of this week. And we also expect that your data should be collected, or if you're still in the process of collecting data, that would be concluded by the end of this week as well. So let's go back to practical project number 4's instructions. And there are a few changes to that that I'd like to address in our class tonight. All right, so let's select our reader for tonight. Daniel, would you read the instructions for us?
Good night, Ms. Shaw. It says, with your group members, develop a corporate ethics code on privacy that addresses both employee privacy and the privacy of customers and users of a local organization or the University of Belize. Be sure to consider email privacy and employer monitoring of work sites, as well as corporate use of information about employees concerning their off-the-job behavior, example, lifestyle, marital arrangements, and so forth. Make sure you include rules for what employees may or may not display in their social media accounts, and explain why you would like to enforce these rules in the organization. Once complete, build a simple blog of your own design using Blogger or a blogging tool of your choice. Be sure to name the blog code of ethics, privacy policy. Post the policy as 2 separate posts, one for employee privacy and another as customer policy. Upload an image that helps justifies your policies. Note, give photo credit to the source of your image. In addition, be sure to add capabilities for users to provide comments. Once complete, prepare a 10-minute presentation of your blog.
Thank you, Daniel. So a few changes. What I noticed last week when I was preparing for our session, the UB email doesn't allow you to create a Blogger account. Apparently, there's some new restrictions that the university has on that account that we were not made aware of prior to this year's offering of the course. I was able to make a Blogger account, however, using my personal email, as in not my UB email. For that reason, I've updated the assignment to say that you can use a blogging tool of your choice. Now, let me ask you guys, what is a blog? Anybody knows? Okay, so I wanted to address that because I realized in the other group, some students were a little challenged because they weren't quite sure what a blog was, and they got this assignment, right? So a blog is really a section of a website. In many of our websites, you'll notice that they have a blog section, and in that blog, it's a web log. And there they would have documentation on specific topics. In your case, I'm asking you to create a portion of a website or a section of a website that has topics on the corporate code of ethics. And so there you will be writing about these, and you'll have different posts. Some of the blogs that you might notice are travel blogs or lifestyle blogs. And there they will have the links to different topics. So some of you are familiar with Google Sites, and if you weren't able to use tools like WordPress, Wix, Weebly, Joomla, some of the other tools that are out there for you, if you wanted to create a blog, then you're free to use Google Sites, which most of you are familiar with from your first assignment, and create a website that looks like a blog. So if you go online and you search for blogs, you'll find examples of different types of blogs just for your inspiration and just for you to have an idea of the layout. But usually the blog would have a name. It looks just like a regular website, would have a name, and you are given the information on what to name your website, your blog rather. And of course, you will have the different topics. You might use images that are clickable to open the links to the blog pages. You might have links to Google Docs. It's up to you to decide how you're going to design it. But as a group, I wanted to ensure that you had a little information on that, so that if you were unclear on what a blog was, you'd have an idea of what you're working towards. All right, and so the policies, it's important for you to remember you're making one for the customer and one for the employee. Now, the organization, you get to choose which organization you would like to represent. It can even be a fictitious organization, but you must be able to create a policy for those two categories of people. Does that make sense?
Yes, Miss.
Okay, great. So I'm not sure if you guys had any other questions regarding this assignment that I might not have addressed in the little explainer just now. But if you do, you're free to voice them during the class. Okay, so the 10-minute presentation is like you usually do. You pre-record your video, and when you submit, you're submitting the link to the video as well as the link to the blog. So you get to choose the tool that you are going to use. There are so many out there that you can try, and it's important for you to learn about these tools. As business students, you will have to create newsletters for organizations, and sometimes you might not want the traditional paper newsletters. So some organizations opt for a blog, and there they can generate traffic to the website to, get persons to know more about the organization. And usually the blogs provide helpful resources that people will want to learn more about. So there are so many benefits, and through the blog, many times persons are able to get subscribers for their company, for their website, so persons can know what's happening, what they're doing, etc. All right, so that's the idea behind it, and I hope that clarifies any questions you might have had regarding this. It does require you doing some research, because you now need to know what is a corporate code of ethics. What are the components of a corporate code of ethics? And of course, we need to see the terminologies from chapter 4 coming out in this code of ethics. You saw the slides that Dr. Ryan shared, and he spoke about different views and different principles that guides our decisions. So we want to see some of that coming out in your methodology as you prepare your code of ethics for those two groups of people. Okay, so we've discussed chapter 4 assignment, project 4 assignment rather. And I mentioned that by now you should have collected your data, or at least you're in the process of finalizing that. How are the groups doing with your data collection?
Miss, for group 1, we finished with our data collection. I think we collected more than how much you was asked of us, so that's where we're at right now.
Tonight, Miss, for group 2, we also collected a number of responses already, because we had issued it out prior to the approval that you had, no?
Thank you, groups 1 and 2. What about group 3?
But Mrs. Still the way for make you approve the thing, the questionnaire. I don't know if you look on it yet.
Oh, I thought you guys had gone ahead already.
Well, we just want to make sure that that we already collect data already. I just want
Yeah.
to make sure that exact questionnaire. Because
Oh,
I asked them if we could do another one, and they may agree. So if
okay.
we already collect the data like from a while back.
Okay. I know I had looked at yours, but let me look at it again before we end tonight so I can advise you. All right. But I thought I had told you guys to go ahead. All right. The last group.
Hi, good night, Miss. My group already send out the survey. However, we never get the amount we need as yet. We're still waiting, Miss.
Okay. So I'm going to get back to group 3 and then I'm hoping that you will get your responses by the end of this week, group 4. So that will help you to be ready to do your data analysis. And in that, you'll be able to generate graphs for each of the categories that you have in your analysis. So we're using the La-Dene and McLean, and you notice they look at user net benefits, they look at use, perceived net benefits, etc. And so all of those will have a different graph that we're going to be analyzing, and then you'll be able to say what you observe from the data. That's basically the analysis. From that, now, it prepares you to write your 5th chapter, which would be the conclusions and recommendations for the system that they have at the organization. Next week when we meet, we're going to spend more time writing your chapters, or at least looking at the outlines that you should have, the structure that you should have to prepare yourself for writing. And we're not going to get to write every single chapter in class, but the idea is that we want to see what you have already done and what edits need to be made as we go through the research week. Yes.
I have a question. With the research project, the final project, are we supposed to be working on it on Google Docs or do it on Microsoft Word, and then when we're finished, submit as PDF for the final research project?
The choice is yours because you're collaborating. Google Docs is an alternative, is an option for you, unless you're using track changes in Microsoft Word, and then you can keep track of what everybody made.
Everybody's doing okay.
Right. So
right.
I would, because of the collaboration part, allowing you to use Google Docs might be a preferred option, because then the changes are live. You could see what's been made and everybody can have access to the same document instead of saving and then emailing different versions of the document.
All right, thanks, Miss.
I'm glad you mentioned that. So in your research folders, I'm hoping you guys would create in your research folder that we started working on a few units ago, that you'd have a folder just for your literature review not just the literature review, sorry, the entire document. And in there you would have that blank document that you'd start populating with content for each of the chapters. So chapter 1 is really just your introduction. And there you tell us what the research is about. You tell us your topic, what are your goals, what methodology you plan to use. It gives us a brief overview of the entire project. And then chapter 2 now is where you start speaking about the theories involved, the methodologies that you learned about from other researchers, and how it relates to your topic. You start presenting the literature to us, and this establishes, a foundation for us to understand where you're coming from. You tell us what you're trying to solve in chapter 1, and then in chapter 2, you tell us what other authors did to solve that problem, or how they dealt with the problem that you are presenting. And then in chapter 3, you speak about the methodology you selected. Chapter 2 would have presented some theories and methodologies that were used, but now you tell us the one that you selected. We made it easy for you by telling you which one to use, which is the La-Dene and McLean. And there we want to learn more about this model. You tell us about the different components, if anything was added to the model, why was it added, where did it come from, and how are you going to use it to assist you with this research. Chapter 4 now is pretty easy because you're now using your questionnaire that you've already formulated, and the data that comes from that, you're putting it in graphs and charts, etc., so that we can see how the data actually looks in visual format, right? So that's where we are right now. We're at the data analysis phase, and then from there, we'll be able to make some conclusions. Okay, so in our next session, we'll be looking more at, that's next week when I say next session, we'll be looking more at how we analyze the data and how we write the research paper. And so I really want to spend quality time going over that with the different groups so that you are at an advantage. Okay, so before we go into our case study presentation for this evening, I'd like to pause to take tonight's attendance. So when I call your name, kindly respond. Shanley?
Present, Miss.
Tidicha? Shanice? Juana?
Here, Miss.
Thank you. If anybody's typing in the chat, I won't be able to see it, so I'll rely on you guys to just inform me. Tiana?
Here.
Danielle?
Present.
Vanetta?
Here, Miss.
Dominic?
Present.
Karen? Keisha?
Here, Miss.
Martha?
Here.
Shanika?
Miss, Shanika had sent you a message.
Oh yes, I saw hers. Okay, thank you. Zulmi?
Here.
Natasha?
Here.
Diona?
Here, Miss.
Gabriel? Starla?
Here.
Jalen?
Here.
Annalie? Okay,
Here, Miss.
Annalie is here. Okay, the persons I have marked absent are as follows. Gabriel, Karen, Shanice, and Tidicha. Okay, we're going to now open the floor to tonight's presenter. Tonight's presenter is Zulmi, and she'll be sharing about Facebook's privacy, your life for sale. So let's listen to what she has to say.
Hi, can you guys hear me? No.
Yes, we can.
Okay, just to make sure. Okay, so my presentation is a bit short. I'll be presenting on Facebook privacy, your life for sale. Okay, so today's agenda, we'll start off with a little summary of the case study. Then I'll answer the 4 questions related to the case study. One is related to ethical analysis of Facebook. The second one is weaknesses of Facebook privacy policies and features. The third one is related to the relationship of privacy to Facebook business model. And the fourth one, successful business model without invading privacy. So the summary. The case study is basically about how private or how secure your information is on each of your Facebook's account. The case study states that Facebook's income comes from allowing third parties to access each user's information at their advantage. So it's mostly used by commerce companies to make sure that they offer you products based on your taste and preferences. For example, if you're posting that you like coffee, they will collect that information and advertise different types of coffees based on your preferences. So in other words, Facebook does not sell the personal information of the users. However, they allow the third parties to access the information. Okay, so the first question, perform an ethical analysis of Facebook. What is the ethical dilemma presented by this case? So Facebook holds a large amount of Facebook users' data, which includes name, date of birth, age, hobbies, daily activities, and so on. So Facebook does not sell each personal information, but it does allow third parties to obtain and exploit users' information without their consent. Users' information is useful for commercial companies. They collect the information from Facebook accounts and then they offer products based on their preferences, as I mentioned before. The ethical dilemma is that Facebook allows third parties access to information from accounts and use it to their advantage, and this is without the user's consent. So those users that follow Facebook business model and do not have Facebook support are not aware of this information. So basically, Facebook does not actually collect your information, but they allow third parties to access this information, and then by the advertisement, that is how Facebook makes the money. What is the relationship of privacy to Facebook business model? So Facebook business model is based on the personal data of its users. They make money from cooperating with third parties. Facebook and privacy have an inverse relationship. So this means that the more efficient Facebook business model is, the lower the privacy of its users. So basically, the more information that is collected by the third parties from Facebook, the more advertisements come up and Facebook becomes more efficient. So the privacy minimizes. Describe the weaknesses of Facebook's privacy policy and features. What management, organization, and technology factors have contributed to those weaknesses? So the policies and features. The policies, they do not do a regular checkup to make sure that third parties are adhering to the policies. The features, they allow third parties to access confidential information without the user's consent. So they basically do violation of privacy. The management, the lack of involvement and communication, because in the case study, they give an example of a situation that happened, and Facebook thought that they had consent from the users to share that information. The organization, they allow third parties to access the users' information. So they make the money by allowing that. And the technology, Facebook uses the opt-in option and also the tagging option. By using the tagging option, Facebook automatically identifies users without their consent. So I don't use Facebook, but I see that as soon as you are tagging someone, it automatically pops out different persons with the same name. So, and that is without the user's consent. Will Facebook be able to have a successful business model without invading privacy? Explain your answer. Could Facebook take any measures to make this possible? So Facebook is one of the largest social networking and is growing daily. It also very useful for businesses for its advertisements, and that is how they have to face a lot of challenges to have a successful business model without invading privacy. However, I think that the measures that can be are like blocking the most confidential information and just let the third parties use the pictures or the photos posted by the users. Because I believe that if one person posts a picture, it's because they want others to know what they're doing, what they like, and so that's the information that they could take so that they can block other information that is more confidential. But in my opinion, I do not think that Facebook will ever have a successful business model without invading the privacy. So thank you. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Zulmi. Yes, I do have a few.
Sure.
What methodology did you use to get the data that you presented to us tonight?
Sorry?
What steps did you take to get the data that you presented to us tonight?
I did some research and I asked some of my friends that use Facebook because I don't have a Facebook account.
Okay. Were you able to disprove any of the points from the case study given to you?
Some of them, yes.
Okay. Now that you've shared your presentation with the class, what's the take-home message that you'd like to leave with us?
I would say maybe not share too much confidential information on your account, as it's not private. Like you might think you have your account set as private, but in reality, there are third parties that are accessing your information.
Okay, that's a good tip. Thank you, Zulmi. Does the class have any other questions for her? Okay, so this week I did promise a few groups, because they requested that I would use a portion of the time to go over questions you had about your research. So before we proceed, I'd like to hear from the groups, and we can start with group 1 and then just continue. What are some of the things that you would like clarified, or if it's not questions that you have, maybe you need some assistance with a specific chapter, and you could mention those areas that you'd like assistance with.
Hi, Miss. I'm not sure if we have any questions. I don't know about my other group members, but
no, Miss, thus far we haven't had much questions because you pretty much have been guiding us throughout the entire process.
Okay. Natasha, are you in the same group with Daniel?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, I wasn't sure if you were in group 2. Okay, so that's group 1. Let's hear from group 2.
Miss, at this moment, we don't have any, need any clarification. We're working as we go along. And I believe as anything comes up that we're unsure about, then would reach out to you, or if we have the time in class in another session, then we would ask the question, no?
Okay. Group 3?
I'm not sure about my group members, but I don't, at the moment, don't have any question.
And group 4?
Miss, just to clarify, the surveys have to be sent out only to the organization that you chose?
That's correct.
Okay, Miss.
Yeah.
All right, just checking.
Yeah, so you're assessing their information system. So that's why we keep it specific to that organization. All right. Okay, so I've basically heard that you guys seem to be okay. When we meet next, I'd like you to just start organizing what you have. All right. If you have a folder online, then put your content there. Start working on getting everything together so that when we meet, we can fine-tune the chapters that you should have. If you haven't started writing anything as yet, some students were honest with me and they told me, Miss, I really haven't written even chapter 1. If you haven't started as yet, we're hoping that when we meet next week for the research week, we can devote some time to organizing what should be included in each of those chapters, and you get the ball rolling, because you don't want to leave this for the last minute. All right. You don't need the unnecessary stress of trying to write a paper just before exam week. So let's get it out the way, but do it properly. We want it done well. And so in your groups, you can have different persons working on different aspects of the project. For example, some of you are very good at identifying mistakes or editing. You might be good proofreaders. Use the skills that you have within your team for your advantage. Some of you are better writers. Some of you are better with the numbers. So whatever your strengths are, try to use it within your group. That doesn't mean that if you have one good writer, that person will write the entire project. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, is that as you identify the unique skills and abilities within your team, you use them where necessary, but don't abuse them. All right?
Miss, what I wanted to ask was maybe if we finish with the research project, let's say before the due date or something like that, will you be open to like a review for us before our final submission?
That wouldn't be a problem. Yes.
Okay.
All right, so it seems that we're going to have a very short session tonight then. So with the remainder of the time, you guys can meet with your groups independently to work on practical project number 4. During that time, I'm going to look over group number 3's document again. So look out for an email from me, Jalen. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. See you on Thursday.
Miss, just one more question. It's about the practical project that we have to do.
Sure.
So since you're saying, because you said that we are not able to use our student ID to create a blog for.
No. What I was saying is when I attempted using Blogger, let me see if I can demonstrate. When I attempted creating a Blogger account using my university account, I was given a restriction. So here is Blogger. This is my UB account. And you guys should see something like this, right? But if I use my personal email address, which would not be the UB account, I was able to create a Blogger account. So that's the restriction I'm referring to. I didn't notice it with creating an account for Wix or Weebly or WordPress or any of the others that I normally use, but I did experience that for Blogger. All right, let me see if I can open my personal email just to show you. So when I created the account with my personal email address, I did have access. So notice that restriction that I had using the UB account is not here for my personal email. All right. And there in Blogger, why you use the blogging tool is because you have less work to do than if you were using Google Sites. So there I can just create a post by clicking on the new post button. And there it opens a blank page and it looks like a Word document, right? So if you already have your Word document typed up of what you wanted in your corporate policy for employees, then you can just paste it and publish it. You can, I'm just gonna write text here. So if I wanted to preview and see what it looks like, I would just be able to see that this is what it would actually look like to viewers. They would have corporate policy, that's the name of my blog, and this is all that's on it right now. The users are able to enter a comment, they can share, and normally, because it's a Google application, ads would go underneath. It allows me to see what this display would look like on different devices as well. So that's one of the features it provides. All right, so that's what I was trying to communicate when I said that you'd have that restriction. If you use your personal email, you can create a blog with no problem using Blogger. But if you tried using your UB email, you'd get something like this. All right, does that clarify that?
Yes, Miss. Thank you very much.
Okay, yes, and I'm glad you asked that question because it will allow persons to be able to see. So you don't have to use Google Sites, you can use Blogger, like I said, but you'd have to use your personal email to create it. And then you could add your posts, you can look at the pages that you have if you created. I just did this to see if it would work for you guys, since it wasn't working with my UB email anymore. All right.
I just wanted to ensure that we are getting the okay to use our personal email for this, because you said we cannot, well, it's not allowing us to use the UB email.
Right, for this assignment, yes. Because again, since we're looking at policies, it's very ironic. The UB policy tells us that we're not supposed to accept emails from students unless they're using their UB account. So it's kind of ironic that I'm asking you, if you choose to use Blogger, then you use your personal email address. All right, but of course you'll submit it on Moodle, so that makes it, I guess it balances the scales to some extent. All right, so this is the only time we'll allow you to use your personal email addresses for any assignment.
Okay, thanks very much, Miss.
You're welcome. All right. Are there any other questions, guys?
Yes, I just have a question, but it is in regards to my case study.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder if you had a chance to look over it.
Did you already present yours?
Yes, ma'am. I was about the sixth person to present.
Okay. So the case studies I grade, and then I put the grades up after a while. So let me see if yours was last week, right? Was it?
No, ma'am, I was in the first set to
Oh, okay. Let me look for your name here, just a minute. Okay, I see yours. Yours is actually at the top of my list. Yes,
Okay.
yours was already graded, and the last grade I have is for, well, Zolmi just presented. So what I do while you're presenting, that's why I ask you those questions. I'm actually grading you as we go along. We have a rubric that we use. And so the rubric covers various things. We look at how well you were able to address the points, if you proved or disproved some of the things that were coming out of the case study. We look at how well you were able to answer questions, whether or not you leave a take-home message, and what evidence you provide. Because yes, you have the case study, but we want to see that you actually went outside of the study to do some investigation as well. So that's where the questions come from. All right. So let me ask though, are you seeing your grade on Moodle right now, Tiana? Because yours was one of the first, so you should be seeing yours already.
No, ma'am, I'm not seeing any grade reason I'm asking.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
you see your other grades though?
Yes, my other grades, but not the case study.
Okay, right now I'm still grading forum number 4, so you guys shouldn't see that one as yet. But I have grades for everybody up to Zolmi in this class right now who has presented in my spreadsheet. Yeah. So if you want to know what grade you got, you can wait after class and I can tell you privately. So when everybody leaves. Yeah.
Okay, miss.
Alrighty.
Miss, I'm seeing Form 4 grade already.
I graded some, but I haven't done the whole class as yet. So I'm still grading that one. So some persons will see a grade, but others will still see a blank space for forum number 4. All right. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you on Thursday, and if you have any additional questions, you can reach out.